This week we will be focusing on re-energize. And what do I mean by re-energize? It is about re-injecting vitality and energy into our bodies, because as I've said before, it's great that we've identified what causes us to feel stressed and what are the key drivers for it, and also some of the key indicators, things like the headaches, the brain fog, the memory loss. But once we've actually discovered all of those things, if we don't have any energy, then we don't have anything to be able to do anything about it. We can't drink from an empty cup, as they say. And then, of course, in week 3, which will be in 2 weeks' time from now, we'll be looking at reflect, which is all about introspection and being able to look within ourselves and try to understand some of the decisions that we've made and what the patterns of behavior are in association to that. Because yes, things have happened in the past, but what can we do to actually rechannel that and be able to do things in the right way and unlock some of those limiting beliefs? Because after all, we're all limitless, aren't we? And then finally, in quite a few weeks later, we're going to be tackling rediscover. And that's all about rediscovering your why. What gives you passion? What gives you purpose? What gives you joy in life? Because it's all good that you've been able to reset yourself, re-energize yourself, and be able to unlock some of the limiting beliefs. But we start actually going back to all of those issues when we don't really know what it is that we love, and we don't know what our purpose is. So finding and having a purpose is so, so important. It drives us, motivates us every single day. And I'm sure that's something the lovely Lorraine, who's joining us tonight, would be able to talk about, because I do know, I've heard Lorraine's story, and I do know that once she actually really connected with herself, rediscovered herself, it's been life-changing. And obviously it's something that's been magical, and I love hearing her story about it. And in fact, actually, the same goes for the other Lorraine, which is our Scots Lorraine, who's on here quite frequently. But she's lucky. She knew what her purpose was right from an early age. Lucky cow. So anyway, so re-energize. I'm going to stop sharing right now. And the reason why I'm going to stop sharing, because I'm going to share why it's so important for us today to be talking about re-energize. Okay, so rather than what I would normally be doing, and I'm going to bring you lovely, beautiful ladies down so I can see you. Usually on Re-Energize, obviously I'll be talking about stuff from my GEMS Wellbeing journey, which is all about learning the art of gratitude, because when we learn gratitude, yeah, we also learn to congratulate ourselves as well and realize all the amazing things that we have achieved. Not just that everybody else has achieved, but what we have achieved. So often we're focused on everybody else. So here's the thing. We can be nice to ourselves and practice some self-care, self-love, and self-compassion. And also we'd be looking at meditation, the art of meditation, because there are so many misbeliefs about meditation. You know, everybody's got this idea and concept that you've got to have your legs crossed, sitting there for 30 minutes looking at a candle. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that is so not true. The reality is we don't need to do things like that. And quite often we can actually be in a meditative state when we're doing exercise, actually in some cases talking to someone, but they just don't know that. So, and also being able to put strategies in place. Now, you might wonder why I skipped the E, because E is all about enhancement. And within enhancement, I've got 3 steps that we take on there. One of them is about energy. And energy can be associated to the people we surround ourselves with, also what's outside. And I do know that sometimes if you're a bit of an empath, you can walk into that room and you're like, whoa, get me out of this room right now. Or actually, I found my place. And that's because energetically, you're all connected with each other. Or it might be about earthing. So for those of you not familiar, it might be grounding. And that's literally that, connecting to the earth. And that helps to be able to re-inject some vitality into you. And then finally, it's about, and I say eat, but I'm being a little bit tenuous there. So in terms of, it's actually what we consume inside and out. And this is why this is so important, okay? Because both the lovely Lorraine and I, on the 21st of June, we'll be holding an event together. I'm proud that Lorraine will be doing it because she's part of the G100 as another fellow G100. Yes, Lorraine is one of those as well. Yes, we're getting everywhere. And that's the point, as a G100 is all about empowering women and being able to create that ripple effect around the world so we can be able to stand up, shine and thrive beyond belief. And that is also about connecting with ourselves, being able to make sure that we're healthier inside and out, and also being able to communicate with others in a much, much better way. And on the 21st, these are lots of topics that we'll be covering, and those taboo subjects that we don't want to talk about. As we get older and we want to age well, and of course, all three of us are aging fantastically, I have to say. Yes, indeed. And also, when we start going through menopause, the things that happen with our bodies, many things that happen with our bodies, actually more than we would care to actually want to mention. And this is why it's important to have those taboo conversations. And this is what we'll be talking about on the day. But the lovely Lorraine will be joining me, and I would love Lorraine to introduce herself and tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your story, but also how you're going to be able to help us on the 21st of June.
Well, thank you, Keely. Yes, I can't wait for our event. It's going to be so amazing. My bubble of magic is helping people to reconnect to sexual energy. So quite often as we go through life, we come up against challenges with our connection with ourselves and with our partner, whether that's just through our own personal experiences, whether it's connecting with menopause, whether it's just connecting with life. We've had kids. There's like all these obstacles we face as women. And we can often become very disconnected from pleasure, from coming home to our body and being with ourselves. And I support men and women to reconnect to sexual energy, but actually as a means of energizing and connecting to life. Often it's something we leave as a last priority of the last thing that we connect with. We're too busy doing life and being really busy and looking after our family, work, whatever that might be. And actually coming home to our physical body and to sexuality, sensuality, and that kind of energy can often get left, or something we dismiss and disconnect from in some way. And I love to help people get back in that bubble and use it as a tool to fuel them, that serotonin and the dopamine, and to use that as an energy to move forward in life, to use that orgasmic, euphoric, blissful energy to motivate us, and something that we can tap into, which as women sometimes we find quite difficult.
Yeah, and that's very, very true. And I mean, actually, one of the things there as well is, we're talking about the topic of stress management, and what is a fantastic way to be able to release stress then, Lorraine.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, to me, it's the ultimate tool, but it ties in with so many parts of our life. We were talking about meditation. People are so disconnected in the bedroom, and we're so busy in a life as a process, we forget for it to be an experience. And that's whether it's, sitting in nature, doing meditation, or just meditating with ourselves, just breathing into our body. Meditation doesn't have to be, as we said, this kind of sitting under a tree. Meditation is being present with an experience. And actually, Tantra is being present with experience. And how amazing if we can be connected to sexual energy, whatever that looks like for us, by being present with it and using it as a fuel for life, using it as a fuel for our relationship with ourselves and with other people. But it's been given to us as it's how we were created at some point, somehow, somewhere. Sexual energy brought us into the world, and it's not an energy that we tap into and utilize.
Yeah. And I think, one of the important things there is also was talking about is having these taboo conversations, and that's not just about sex. It's also about being able to ask for what we want or what we need, or be able to talk about some of the things that we are not comfortable with having, but also other people are not receiving. And that could be with your partner, could be with children, work colleagues. I mean, face it, when it comes to things like menopause and God, our bodies change. When we go into work, it's not just the men that don't understand what the hell's going on. There's a lot of women don't understand what the hell's going on, and they don't understand why you've gone from DEFCON, gone from 0 to DEFCON 9 in about 10 seconds. I want to stab someone's face in for no apparent reason whatsoever. But when you can start having those taboo conversations where people can understand you, then it does make it a lot easier for everyone, doesn't it?
It does. In society, we've got so many things that we have fear, shame around. We judge each other on. We we can't hold those difficult conversations. There's so many taboos. We are scared of rejection. A lot of the time it's about we're scared of rejection, whether that's in the office, in the bedroom, talking about menopause, talking about sex, whatever it might be. We don't want to have a conversation. We preempt what the outcome is going to be, and often that's not the case. When actually you sit down and have those conversations, quite often we're surprised on other people's responses, because we're all wanting to have that conversation. It just takes one person to start and go, actually, I hear you, or now I understand, or there's some connection that just means that people can have a conversation and connect in a different way. But so many of the conversations are never had, even between women. We're so scared of being the odd one out, feeling rejected, feeling lost, feeling judged. And there's so much shame and fear around so many topics, whether it's sex, menopause, raising kids, like whatever it might be. There's a list of topics that we just, we worry about, and we feel judged by other people on.
Yeah, and for getting it wrong. I know I was actually talking to my daughter about the event, and she said, I think it's a fantastic event. I mean, my daughter's like 30 now. Time goes so quickly. But I mean, even the conversations we've had, and she said, because of the access to things like porn for young adults, there's expectations, misunderstood information, misconceptions and beliefs about what a relationship is about, or not, as the case may be. There are things that, perhaps even, she's saying it's not just girls are thinking this is what they're supposed to be doing, when the reality is that's not necessarily the truth. And the same thing with lads have got this expectation because they're seeing one thing and the reality on that side. So even they're expecting to behave in a certain way that's not true as well. And she turned around and said it would be really nice to have, even in schools, some of these conversations that are not being had, and it would come from a much healthier place, so people don't feel that shame, disgust, expectations, and misinformation about life in general. It's yeah.
The thing is, it starts at an early age that we don't have those conversations, and what we forget is all of these create emotions, and emotions are attached to health. All of our health conditions are connected to an emotion. So if we're living in fear and shame and we're not having these conversations and we don't feel we can, then that shows up in our physical health. We kind of consume that. And for women, that's a lot of stuff to carry around. And some women actually literally carry it around. That is part of the weight they're carrying, all of this fear and shame about being a woman and being empowered. Because often in areas of our life, we don't feel like we can be empowered. And we literally carry it in our way, in our skin, in our body, and the work you do. We're literally holding on to it. And it's time to let it go.
Yes, exactly. So, first of all, the other Lorraine, the lovely Lorraine from Scotland, another G100, amazing woman. So, what's your thoughts and perspective on this?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because there's so many different age groups, and I think younger people or the mid-range people are better at talking about it. I think when much younger people don't always want to talk about it, and then you get people my age or a bit older than me, maybe I'm 63, so maybe, yeah, probably 60 to 80-year-olds often don't want to talk about it, which, it's like, oh my God, don't mention the, sort of sex hormone, period, whatever word. Whereas, as the other lovely Lorraine, we need to be Lorraine 1 and 2. I can be called Lollipop because I get called Lollipop or Lolly. So, I think when you've got a group of friends, especially, close friends, and they go out for drinks and what have you, if you've got a really good group of girlfriends, you'll talk about it. It's like one of my friends is medical, and dare we mention the word, dryness. And she said, oh, I've got this. And everybody was taking pictures of this. This was a while back. And she said, but Lorraine can't take that because of, having had breast cancer. I said, no, but I can take this one. And, we were all sharing what we can all use and what we can take. And then somebody piped in, oh my goodness, do you girls at your age still do it? And I said, I take it you mean sex, or what you're talking about. Do we still do? Do I still get in the water and put a water ski on and go around like 100 miles an hour, which I used to pre-metal hip? And I said, yes, we do. And, and I had a client who was Europe's leading pediatric pathologist. And she was at the time, I think she was 70. And I said, oh, how's Eric? She says, he's having a lie down. She says, because he knows I want sex when we get in. And one of my young team said, did I hear Doctor, I won't say her name, Jean, did I hear right? And I said, yes. I said, she's just been getting some nuts so that she doesn't mix up the bird seed and the nuts, because she doesn't want to kill Eric off, because she needs them for sex at 6 o'clock. And, Lorraine, you're right. But, when I think it's when things aren't working well and going well, and, our book group's really naughty. I mean, we get the sex word in the first 5 minutes.
We do.
So I think if you kind of can talk about it and, enjoy it and just generally not feel embarrassed. But I think there are some people that are just, they can be embarrassed about, other things as well. So, maybe it's because, they didn't have a group of girlfriends. It wasn't so much mums that did the education. My mum used to say to me at 14, I hope you've not been out having monkey business. And my sister said, she's 2 years younger than me, what does mum mean? She said sex. I said sex. My sister said, what does monkey business mean? And I said sex. My mum said, I heard you talking about it. Joe doesn't need to know what monkey business is. And my sister said, Lorraine already knows what it is. So, I think it really depends. Have you got sisters? Have you got girlfriends? Have you got someone to talk to? Have you got someone like the lovely Lorraine Crooks, that you can confide in? So I think it's so different for different people. And I think, the more we don't make it taboo, the better it is. It's like there's one guy I know, he's hilarious. He is gay right enough. And he says, oh, I always know when all the women at work are going through the menstrual cycle. He says, there's a fight for the chocolate machine. The vending machine. He said, don't get in their way because they'll stab you. He said, and they're all on the same cycle. He said, when women work together, they move and they all become sort of almost on cycle. He said, for me, he said, I'm joining them. He says it's the only way to go. So yeah, I think it's very, very different for different groups of people and different backgrounds, different ages, yeah.
Yeah. And it is such a well, I mean, all of it is such an important topic. I mean, even things like, as you say, things like the menopause and all that, like, people don't talk about it. I mean, it's actually, you hear it talked about more now than ever. And, and when people are talking about, like, say, the hot flushes and all those kind of things. But I mean, you say, when it starts talking about your body and the intimacy and all those changes that are going through, they're the kind of things that are not spoken about. And, it's important for people to understand it. And also for your partners, your intimate partners, to know it's not about them. It is actually about you. You've changed, and it doesn't mean that you've fallen out of love with someone either. It's, your body has changed. So it's been able to have those conversations, or as you say, in work, having those conversations with other people and being open about it. But, the challenge is it's not just an age group thing. There's cultural situations, your education, your background, your environment, who you're associated to, your parents, what their beliefs are, and all those kind of things. There's so many things that can impact it. So, Lorraine, go on. Crooks.
No, I agree, all of it. I mean, having my previous life before I became a sexual empowerment liberator was working in secondary education, and none of that's taught, even to understand the menopause. If kids understood the menopause, even at a young age, not only do they know what's coming, but also they can understand the dynamics of anything around their mother or other relations they have. But and the same with boys learning about the menstrual cycle. It's like this is stuff that affects everybody, even if it's not directly affecting you. The same as sex, the same as all sorts of things that just aren't taught. You know, there's a lot of things that are taught in education that are really not needed, not that, and other things that could actually change family dynamics, relationships. You know, even understanding. You know, I've worked with many couples that have struggled around all sorts of things to do with intimacy, menopause. It just not even being able to communicate and have a conversation about what pleasure feels like for them, because at school it was just such a taboo. You know, it was the biology that was talked about and not the experience. So therefore, you know, the couples are not connecting, they're not asking for what they want. The dynamics gets really challenging. People split up. People feel suicidal over different relationships because then health issues show up, whether that's for the woman or the man, whether that's erectile dysfunction, or you know, the various things that women can struggle with pH balance and all sorts of things. And a lot of that comes from not being able to have the conversations, and kind of it showing up in the body. And it should be taught in schools. There's a lot of things that we should be having conversation with at a much younger age, so that children understand what this is for them, but also understand what it is for their parents. And it's not a taboo, that it's an open conversation that can be had, as opposed to something that once you're in the thick of it, it's maybe a conversation's had, or at least an argument. You know, it's like, why are we waiting until it gets to that before we have those conversations? And communication, I think, you know, whatever area of life we're in, whether we've got kids, with partners, whatever it is, communication is absolutely fundamental in any type of relationship. But is not a skill that we're taught how to manage those challenging conversations, how to say things like, you know, that feels really good, but what would make that even better for me is, you know, this is really good in our relationship, but you know what would make it even more enjoyable? You know, how to phrase and ask the questions without feeling that it's so. And actually, if someone says no, that's okay, because that's them honoring them, and you've given them space to do that. And actually, you know, just by having that conversation and acknowledging where each other's at, doesn't mean to say necessarily anything's going to dramatically change, other than the fact that you've honored each other by having a voice and listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it isn't just about, you know, with, say, whether it's menopause, whether it's changes, whether it's sex or anything like that. It's having vulnerable conversations, full stop. I am having a bad day, and here's why. You know, and being able to have that conversation. Or there's something that's going on in my personal life that may be causing me to be being a little bit more emotional than I would be normally. You know, if you're having that conversation with your team, just having a vulnerable conversation is okay. And also allowing men to have that vulnerable conversation as well, because quite often women like the idea that men are vulnerable, and yet when they show any weakness by being vulnerable, they then get castigated for it, you know. And there's a shame. It's like, you know, don't ask for one thing and then expect another of them. You know, allow them, give them permission too. So yeah, communication is absolutely vital. And interestingly, I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it? If you've got a teenage girl, quite often as a teenage girl, quite often your mum might be actually already entering into the menopause. So what have you got? You've got two like elements that are almost like going to go with each other. So both of them are going 0 to 60. They're going to DEFCON 9. Both of them like ripping each other's heads off and all that kind of thing, because their emotional level is like going through the roof. If we can understand that, and also it would also help with the dad or the brother or whatever to know what the hell's going on between mum and the sister that worked perfectly fine 2 minutes ago. So, you know, it is important for it. So
one of the other important, really quickly, is that we get very attached to other people creating our emotions. And we create our emotions, like so in the dynamics of a relationship, to say this is how I feel, often the other person takes that as something personal.
Yeah,
our feelings are our feelings. And I think we've got into a culture where we quite easily blame other people, or we take on that other people have made us feel a certain way. That's our
Yes.
responsibility. So
Yeah.
those challenging conversations are like, this is how I feel, is not a
Yeah.
blame of you. But I think we're in a culture where that we're in a blame culture. I don't
Yeah.
think that, you know, again, it's a thing that we kind of, I guess, need to be taught to be able to just stand back from it and go, actually, yeah, my feelings are my feelings and I choose how I feel.
Mm.
But we are in a culture of like, they made me feel like this, you've made me feel like, and that in the dynamics of any relationship, whether it's partner, work, kids, whatever it is, you know, we choose our feelings. And I think allowing each other space to go, like, this is how I feel today, that's not a reference to anything to do with you,
Yeah.
just where I'm at, and I need you
Yeah.
to know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm having a crap day. I'm taking ownership of it,
Yeah.
but it's not personal. So,
I'm going to
yeah,
have it, stand with me, spit my dummy out, and we'll
yeah,
meet each other at the end of the day and sort it all out.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, first of all, a big thank you, Lorraine and Lorraine, for joining me this evening. And I cannot wait to have our event. I know you and I could go on the bandwagon about loads of this stuff already. And we've got so many synergies between what we're actually doing, because it is all about being able to connect with yourself. It is about re-energizing yourself. It is about consuming the right things inside and out. It is about having those vulnerable conversations, which will then ultimately lead to you being even more stress-free. And that's why it makes it such a fantastic day, because it's going to be a bit of melting pot of lots of fantastic insights. And also talking about, and we've got the wonderful tree behind you, Arvin, as well, making sure that we've got the right stuff that's going into us inside and out. So, because that also has a big impact on how we think and feel about everything we do. So anyway, thank you again, lovely ladies. It's been an absolute pleasure. And hopefully when I hit the stop button, it actually strings nicely into the Facebook group as well. So, but other than that, I have recorded it, so I don't mind.
Thank you, Keely. Thank you, Lorraine. Lovely.
Thank you. And by the way, I loved the colour of your dress, Lorraine. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, right. I'll stand just for a second. I'll show you. Oh, you can't see it. I need to change
I
my
can see
background.
it. I can see it.
Yeah,
Can
but
see
when I
it.
do that, if I change, choose virtual background. Now, Ian's got the shredding going on in the background, but you see it's got pockets. Oh,
Yeah.
1 second. Right, so it's got pockets, and it's got little
Yeah.
back rings, and it's got a little backlessy bit.
Ooh, sassy. Yeah.
Am I okay? I was networking lunch, 4-course lunch, very nice, glass of champagne.
I was going to say that's a very posh working lunch. That was so. Yeah.
It was a
So
very posh group in a very posh place.
well, so Lorraine Westby used to be a fashion designer, didn't you? And made clothes and wedding dresses for very, very famous people too.
Yeah, I did outfits for the red carpet. J.K. Rowling was one of my clients, lots of other people, quite a lot of Scottish celebrities. But yeah, anything to do with fabric and some beads, I'm your woman.
There you go. Good. Anyway, ladies, I'm going to bugger off and go and cook dinner. So, and crash.
Thank you. Good luck
So,
on the 21st. It'll be amazing.
yeah, and thank you.
Take care,
Cheers. Take
guys.
care.
Lots of
Bye.
love.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.